there is a tragic chapter of Central West history that involves a double murder in Carcoar in the late 19th century. The 1893 axe murders committed by Bertie Glasson, who was later executed for his crimes, continues to resonate to this very day. Local historian and lyricist Ton Hahn has created a folk ballad which tells the tale, and he's had a bit of help with artificial intelligence. We spoke earlier about the history first behind this song.
The axe murders at Carcoar took place on September 24, 1893. It was in the early hours of the morning. Bertie Glasson, the son of a local landowner, he broke into the city bank at Carcoar. He believed that the bank was unoccupied at the time, because the bank manager, Mr. Phillips, and his family had been transferred to Young, but apparently they'd decided to stay on a bit longer. So when Bertie broke into the building, he wasn't aware of that. Mr. and Mrs. Phillips were asleep upstairs. She heard a sound and she woke her husband, and she told her husband to go downstairs to investigate. Now, bank managers at that time had to keep a loaded pistol under their pillow, which seems a bit dangerous.
Seems a bit cowboy nowadays, doesn't it? But
it does, but anyway, that was a requirement. So Mr. Phillips went downstairs to investigate. He encountered Hubert Edwin Glasson, who was known as Bertie. He was a local, he was a well-known local, but he was living in Sydney with his wife, but he'd travelled back to Carcoar. And Bertie had broken into the bank because he was in financial difficulty. And the bank at Carcoar had foreclosed on his butchery business, and he was in a lot of trouble. So he thought he could rob the bank and hopefully fix up his financial problems. Now, the bank manager recognised Bertie, even though he had the face mask, and he said to Bertie, "Why do you do this thing? You'll only get yourself into trouble. Just leave the building." So the bank manager, he was a nice fellow, but he was a bit timid and shy, and his wife was right behind him, and she was a bit more assertive. And she said, "If you won't shoot him, I will." That kind of made Bertie snap, because he had a tomahawk in his hand. And so he hit the bank manager over the head. The bank manager eventually died from that wound on the head. The wife ran towards the stairs, towards the children upstairs, and she was screaming out murder. Bertie then went after the wife, and she was felled in the corridor.
Wow!
She didn't die from her wounds, but she was disfigured by the tomahawk. So upstairs was Mrs. Phillips's sister, Susan Stoddart, and a family friend by the name of Penny Kavanagh. Now, the two women were alerted by the screams, and they ran to protect the children. But on the staircase, Penny Kavanagh had the baby, Gladys, and Bertie saw her on the staircase. He was in front of her. He hit her with the axe. She died, but in the process, the baby also lost a couple of fingers.
Oh, really?
So it was quite.
Oh my gosh!
It was quite grisly. So then he was demanding from the ladies in the house, where's the keys for the safe? So they gave him the keys to the safe, and eventually he fled the scene. He stole a horse from his brother-in-law, the Reverend Clark, who was the occupant of the rectory just a few houses up the street. So he went to Cowra, and at Cowra, word of the crime had spread to Cowra, and he even offered to join in with the search party, which often happens, and I don't know why, but it seems to happen in these cases. So he offered to join the search for the culprit, but eventually he was identified and he was arrested. Then he was tried and he was taken to Bathurst Jail, where he was hanged.
And so, as you said, this is the late 1800s. But it seems like you have an incredible amount of detail about this. How? How do you have all this information?
Okay, well, when Bertie was arrested, there was a letter in his pocket addressed to his wife. So that was one of where I draw a lot of my lyrics that come from that letter. Also, it was widely covered. It was such a sensation, the crime. It really shocked the country. And it came only 12 months after the axe murders in America, where Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her father 40 whacks. So that was fresh in people's minds, that whole sort of, and this was, I suppose, the equivalent of that.
Yeah, wow. So, as I mentioned, you're a local historian. So, were you able to, I guess, go back and access the clipping, like the actual newspaper clippings and the letter and all that? Is that where you've got this?
So the accounts of the trial are readily available on Trove. A lot of the lines in the song are actually drawn from that letter that Bertie wrote to his wife. And the interesting thing I always think of, people say, the song makes you sympathise with Bertie. But I don't think it does. I think it just puts you in his headspace. And I think that understanding someone isn't necessarily condoning what they did. So I don't think the song glorifies the murders. And I don't think it makes Bertie out to be a victim either. Although when he went into that bank, I don't think he went in as a monster.
What makes you think that he didn't walk in as a monster, but he kind of walked out as one?
Basically, he wasn't expecting to find anyone in that bank, even though he had the tomahawk. I suppose that was a deterrent. Who knows? I mean, you can never really put yourself in someone's mind. But I guess that letter, that provided a portal into his mind. That letter, didn't
it? So I mean, and as you've alluded to, you've written song lyrics about this incident. Tell me, what about this? What about the letter and what about the story made you want to, I guess, write a song about this?
It's a story that's been passed down through my family. And one interesting personal aspect is that my great-great-great-grandfather, Engelbert, he was watching from his veranda as Bertie's brother, John, brought the body back of Bertie from the Bathurst Jail.
Wow, really?
To be buried on the family property. Most people think that Bertie's buried at Bathurst Jail, but according to the family stories, he was buried on the property. So that's always a haunting image for me, and I guess that's where the song began. So it began many years ago in my mind.
My darling wife, my precious queen, you're all I'd ever need. But I think I'm slipping out of me. Don't know what I've done or where I've been. I said I'd go to Orange Town.
One of the interesting things about this song, of course, it's not just the story, because the story itself is incredibly compelling, but it's how you made this song. How did you make this song?
Okay, so I wrote the lyrics, and then I'm not a musician, so I'm just I guess I'm just a lyricist. And then I put it through an AI program, which generates music and vocal. The AI program needs fairly specific sort of directions to get the mood of the song and the verses, so it follows my prompts, and then hopefully it then comes up. But it could take about, it could take 60, 70 goes to get the right version. And this song ended up being spliced together too from different versions.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So.
Okay, and did you put the lyrics in and then say go for it and see what happens, and it came up with a really weird version first?
I concentrated on a Celtic sort of vibe.
Okay.
So it got close-ish.
Okay.
To that concept. But yeah, it took quite a few goes to actually get something that would that matched what I had in my head.
You're my queen, my guiding light. But something's wrong, I can't make right. What have I done? What have I done? I see your face, but the warmth is gone from the light.
This particular song I've shared with people, they say that it's almost got a bit of a Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds kind of sound. Was that what you were going for?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was, yeah.
Is that the name? Did you put that name in to say draw on this music, or
no? But that's an interesting thing, because I listened to some of the Nick Cave songs, and he writes dark murder ballads. And so I suppose that sort of, that did inspire me, Nick Cave's music.
And as you said, you're not necessarily a musician, but you're a lyricist. So what made you turn to AI to create this song?
I guess because I had no other way because I'm not a musician, no other way of actually bringing the song to life further. I know the lyrics tell the story, but then you need the melody and...
Once you finally came through this, I guess, you mentioned it took quite a number of times to get this version of the song. Did it live up to your expectations?
Yes. I am happy with the version that I've come up with. So, yes, and I'm hoping that someday someone might record it professionally. So
this is kind of like a bit of a demo, and then you're hoping.
Is, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
But if that doesn't happen, that doesn't happen. But hopefully someday down the track, someone might listen to it and want to record it.
That's interesting. Gee, and how funny that we've come that far in society where people might take a song that the melody is AI generated and then go, I want to cover that and make it human. Isn't that interesting?
And I think that's a wonderful thing, because AI it's an amazing tool to have.
What have I done? What have I done? I see at last what I've become.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, isn't it? And then what you were just hearing there is What Have I Done, which is the song that has lyrics from that historian and lyricist Todd Hahn from Carcoar, who created that ballad with the help of artificial intelligence. He's also used AI to create this video clip for the song as well, which is inspired by the landscape of the Carcoar district. So if you wanted to go and watch it for yourself and hear the whole song is about 5.5 minutes, then you can go on to YouTube. If you type in What Have I Done Carcoar or lyric video or Todd Hahn, then you should be able to find it if you're interested. You're listening in to ABC Central West.